Dead Snow came out in 2008 but was more widely distributed in 2009, and this is a Norwegian film. Norwegian dark comedy, black comedy, horror movie. Nazi zombie movie. And it's one of the first of its kind. This is the first Nazi zombie film that I ever heard of and ever watched. But there was one that came out pretty much at the same time. It says it was released in 2008 called Outpost, which also dealt with World War II zombie stuff. Not Overlord, which came out much more recently, but Outpost. Apparently, it's a trilogy. I've never seen it. I really want to. But Dead Snow is, like I said, the first Nazi zombie film that I heard of, and when if it comes to zombies, period, count me in. But Nazi zombies, come on, that's fucking badass. And I always love foreign cinema, and I've always had such a great time with this film. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's fantastic. It's gory as fuck. Yeah, it has a lot of CGI in it. Yeah, it has a lot of noticeable green screen in it, but it doesn't matter because this is just a fun B movie, independent movie that is so much fun. And I also like films, horror films especially, I will say, that take place in cold environments. And these environments looked real too. I don't think they were doing a lot of like studio work or stage work that they were like indoors. I think a lot of the scenes were actually shot in the mountains and snowy environments. So I'm pretty sure anyway. Of course, I could be mistaken, but the snowy environments definitely seem like they're actually cold. Like the actors are actually freezing and the crew is actually freezing too. But anyways, we have a group of medical students, and they are heading to the mountains for a ski trip on Easter break. And they're heading to this cabin. They're going to the cabin in the woods, and yes, other cabin in the woods movies are referenced. We have a character whose name is Erland, and Erland is like the expert on horror movies and horror tropes, and they play that off very in a comical way. But these characters are heading to basically vacation at a cabin for some skiing and drinking and doing what college and university kids do. But one of them, it starts off, it opens up with this girl running through the forest while In the Hall of the Mountain King is playing in the background. That track. And she's being chased by a creature of some kind. And she gets killed off, and then we were introduced to the kids driving up to the cabin. That girl ends up being a girl named Sara, which is one of the guys who's called Vegard. It's his girlfriend, so his girlfriend dies pretty quickly. They get up there and they start drinking, they start skiing, they start playing Twister, which of course gets sexual real quickly. There's a scene where one of the characters, Martin, puts a pillow over his girlfriend Hannah's face and just leaves it there, and he's calling it this is the anesthetic for the Middle Ages. So apparently he has some fucked up sense of humor. It's also mentioned on their drive up. They start talking about in case you get stuck in an avalanche to spit, because most people end up digging downwards instead of upwards when they get stuck in an avalanche. I don't know how many people know that, but yeah, apparently it's a fact that a lot of people, when they're stuck in the like underneath a bunch of snow after an avalanche, a lot of them dig downwards because they lose their sensation of what's up and what's down. So the best thing you can do is either drool or spit, and wherever the spit, whatever direction the spit goes, is obviously downwards, so you dig in the opposite direction. A little survival fact for you guys in case you ever get stuck in the snow and you need to dig yourself out. Make sure you know where the gravity is going. While they're at this cabin, this I call him basically a traveler shows up because he doesn't have a name. He randomly shows up, and then he gives the whole lore and backstory where during the World War II, the Nazis basically used this mountain and this kind of village area as a post between Russia and Britain, I think. And they really treated the locals, the local Norwegian people and villagers, terribly, and the Germans were just fucking Nazi assholes. So eventually, the locals ganged up and they basically formed like they got every weapon they could, shovels, sickles, whatever, and like 3,000 of them chased these Germans and German soldiers to the mountains, where they eventually froze to death. Apparently, the evil still lurks in these mountains, though, according to this wanderer, this traveler. And there's evil in the mountains that he warns the kids about, and the kids are obviously like making fun of this guy, saying like, well, we're in medical school, but we haven't learned how to cure evil yet. Maybe we'll learn that next semester." And the guy just grabs him by the neck, and he's like, "Yeah, you won't be laughing when your intestines are hanging outside of your body." They do use a lot of intestine gross out scenes in this movie. Many times. They definitely do a lot with intestines, zombie intestines and human intestines both. But the director definitely liked to create some gore gags using intestines. He was a fan of that apparently. So they're playing games and getting drunk, and Erland decides he has to go shit. So he goes to shit in the outhouse, and Chris in English, she basically wants to fuck him apparently, and they're both single, but apparently the guy Ron, one of them is named Ron, apparently he's according to one of the girls, the horniest guy north of the Arctic Circle, as she puts it, and tells Chris that Ron is single and he's all yours if you want him. But no, Chris wants Erland, the geeky movie fan. So she goes outside while he's in the outhouse, and then she goes into the outhouse and she starts fucking Erland after he shat, which is really fucking weird and really disgusting. And they start to have sex. And he comes back into the cabin, and she stays behind because apparently she needs to crap as well, I guess. And that's what normal horny kids do, is they go, sneak into the washroom while the one that they want to fuck is taking a shit, and then they fuck him, and then they take a shit themselves. I don't know. It's kind of gross. But then we have this whole Sleepaway Camp 2 moment where she falls into the fucking outhouse toilet and crawls out all covered in crap and shit. And she's being attacked by one of the zombies, and she gets mauled. And then everybody's wondering where she is, and the cabin is attacked by a group of these Nazi zombies. And Erland, I wouldn't say he has the best death in the movie, but he definitely has a very grisly one. And he's at the window, and the zombie has his face and is digging his fingers into Erland's eyes, and then just rips his fucking head open. It's all practical. His brain falls on the floor with such a thud, and you just have this mushy brain just fall on the floor with a and really gross sound effects. I think I got ahead of myself. The character Vegard eventually decides to go on his snowmobile and go look for Sada. And all this going on with Erland's death and the brain falling, I don't think Vegard was around for that. I think he had already left, I'm pretty sure. And so he didn't witness any... Yeah, he did leave first because he didn't witness any of that at all. He comes across the Nazi zombies on his own when he discovers the tent of that traveler who came to warn the kids, and he looks inside the tent and he sees the traveler dead, who was attacked by a zombie earlier. The traveler's death is cool too. This zombie kind of just runs past him and slits his throat, but really fast, to the point where the traveler is kind of stunned, and then you just see him kind of lift his head and you see the neck slit. And then he goes back to his tent, and the zombie just goes into his tent and just starts stabbing him repeatedly. So it's very crazy. Vegard though discovers this cave and discovers the whole German outposts that were there back in the day and created then, and he sees a bunch of World War II helmets and clothing and a machine gun that he eventually starts to use, and then he starts to get attacked himself by these Nazi zombies. And it's funny when I think he puts one down, and then the zombie gets right back up again, and he's just like, okay. As if he's like, yep, I know. I guess it's going to be like this. Let's go. Kind of thing. So the two girls, Hannah and Liv, they go basically back to where they parked the cars, even though it's really hard to get to because the footprints that they were going to use to trace themselves back to the cars have been covered with more snow. So they're kind of wandering, but they're wanting to find the cars so they can go get help. And the two guys, Ron and Martin, they stay back at the cabin, and eventually they come up with this genius idea to make some noise so they can distract the zombies. So they're just banging on pots and pans, and they're just the decisions these characters make sometimes are just ridiculous. Friggin' one of them makes a Molotov cocktail, and he's supposed to throw it out the window to the zombies. And I'm telling you, it's one of the funniest scenes in the movie. He whips it, trying to get it out the window, and he's right in front of the window, and he's just like to the side, and the thing hits the wall, and they light the cabin on fire and burn the whole fucking place down. Couldn't get a Molotov cocktail out right literally in front of a window from where I am to the camera, and he misses. It's fucking ridiculous. They call the cops. Martin calls the cops, and they're trying to get help, but everything he's saying to the cops sounds like he's, insane, basically. And he's like, fucking cunt hung up on me, and Rob's like, of course she hung up on you. It sounds like you smoked your underpants. It's funny, and then you have like a lot more gore going on at the end. Vegard comes back to the cabin with his snowmobile and his machine gun. His death is gnarly. He has like 5 zombies around him, just stab him, all 5 of them with 5 knives, stab him, and then like 2 grab his legs, 2 grabs his arms, and then another one grabs his head, and the 5 of them just tear his body apart until he's just a torso. And they have this really funny song playing in the background while they're mauling zombies with a chainsaw. And at one point in the movie too, I mentioned the intestines. One guy ends up getting a zombie into a tree, and there's a stub on the tree that pierces the zombie's like abdomen area, and then fucking another zombie grabs, I think, Vegard, and pushes him off a cliff, and both of them are hanging onto the zombie's intestine as a rope. And then him and the zombie are fighting each other while they're hanging onto this rope. And one thing in this movie that doesn't happen, by the way, is zombie bites don't turn people. So the characters think they do because they know the whole zombie lore, but there's nobody that turns into a zombie after getting bitten in this film, which is unique for a zombie movie. But yeah, the Martin, when he gets bit, he's freaking out because he thinks he's going to be turned, and Ron's trying to calm him down. And he's like, isn't your grandfather half Jewish? I don't think they'd want somebody half Jewish on their team. And he's flipping out. He wants to cut his arm off with the chainsaw because he wants to not be infected, so he ends up cutting his arm off and burning the stump on the flame. And Martin is the only person that survives at the end of this movie. Erland, when they were in the cabin, ends up finding a box of treasure. And basically is filled with like silver and gold. And at that point he thinks he struck gold and he's going to be rich, but not really. Martin comes up with the idea of offering this gold and silver back to Herzog. Herzog is the leader of the Nazi zombies. He's like the main general guy. And Martin offers them the gold back, and he takes the gold, the Herzog, and lets Martin go. So Martin goes to find the cars. How he found the cars, I don't know, because, like I said, the tracks were missing. The girls couldn't find the damn cars. So he somehow finds the cars anyway, and he goes, and then he's turning the car on, and something falls like out of his pocket or something, and it's a little piece of gold. It's 1 gold coin that for some reason he kept. So Herzog and the Nazi zombies got all the treasure back other than 1 fucking coin. And then he's like, oh fuck, and Herzog appears at the car window, and Herzog just punches the window in, and then just credits roll. And spoiler alert, Dead Snow 2, which I'm reviewing, starts right where the first one ends. So you can definitely watch Dead Snows 1 and 2. back to back, and it really makes for a one story experience that's really really good. It's a fun movie. It's a funny movie. It's very comedic, but it definitely stays horror. It doesn't go. The second one goes quite comedy. The second one definitely sticks more to comedy than it does horror. I would say it's more like a gory comedy horror, but comedy comes first. This one, horror comes first, and comedy comes second. The comedy complements this one a lot more. It's sprinkled in, and I like that. It's a really perfect Nazi zombie movie. I gave it a 4.5, so I don't know if I can say it's perfect, but it's really dense, and it really knows what it's doing, and it really knows what kind of movie it is. So that ups the scale on its own, and the characters are great. The characters are funny, and the zombies look fantastic. They look very monstrous. They look very vicious, and like their decomposition and just even with their uniforms, they look good. Colonel Herzog looks awesome, and they look very menacing, and they are very menacing. Like these zombies can hold up a fight like crazy. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I loved it since the first time I watched it back in the day, and it's a really fun zombie movie. Watch it with subtitles. Don't be lazy, and unless you speak Norwegian, of course. And yeah, I mean, Dead Snow. All the compliments to Dead Snow. I really liked it. Go check it out if you have not. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon. So this is also, I will mention before I leave. I love watching these movies in the winter, and now that it is winter, this is a big reason why I decided to review these now, is because this is the type of movie that feels cold. Just like Frozen, the horror movie by Adam Green, directed by Adam Green. It just feels cold, and they're so much more enjoyable when it actually is cold out. So definitely a good time to watch this movie is on a really, really cold day. But anyway, subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming. Until next review, have a good one and cheers.